everybody, Dan TheCriminalViolin here. Welcome to a video again of a very different sort than normal, but I saw all these different videos that were being recommended to me. I have no idea why, because they're from channels I've literally never watched a single video from before. But it was all these different videos that were basically reactions slash people that were giving their official reviews, I guess, or whatever, of a video from Cut, which was released on the 15th of this month, November 2020, which is asking a bunch of people of color what exactly are white people superior at, apparently. I just thought, this already sounds so cliche and bad and just terrible and pathetic that I thought, let's set aside the biases, right? And let's actually take an honest look at this and let's watch this together, because this is the very first time I've ever watched it. So I want to be able to just get the raw response to this for everybody here, and I'd love to know what your guys' thoughts on it are, because, I mean, just from, like, say, in my mom's personal experience, and even my brother Nathan's personal experiences. By the way, my brother Nathan is half Hispanic. Go figure. He doesn't look like it. He looks like he's 100% white, but he's half Hispanic. And yet he gets treated like complete shit all the time. And anybody else in his clinic, his medical clinic he goes to, he gets treated like shit all the time. I mean, yes, he's self-detrimental. So of course they see him, they've seen him quite a bit before over the years. And his history doesn't help that. But all the medical records within the last year show he's been completely clean. He's been all that. He's mentally ill, and that's what that clinic's for, is for basically mentally ill people, people actually that suffer with drug addiction, and people that are homeless. Go figure, for some reason, they treat him like shit. They still do, even though they know for a fact, because his doctors, even at the hospital locally, told them, hey, he's been clean for over a year. We know that for a fact, and at the same time, this has to do with an actual medical issue. Whether or not it somehow was caused by something from his past doesn't matter. He needs to be helped. They won't help him, and they treat him like shit, and they completely ignore him. They will literally yell at him, and they'll yell at my mom even, and just rip him apart and treat him like shit. But as soon as a black person or black people step up, they can be going apeshit on these desk workers and these doctors. Literally no response. They will literally, the only thing they'll do is go, okay, with the calmly, like, okay, I understand. Here's what we can do. But with white people in there, they just treat them like complete shit. They throw them against the wall, they curb stomp them, all figuratively, but that's basically what they do. They treat you like shit. And so in other words, it's like, you can tell it's this modern day cliche in the US where in order to find equality racially and socially with black people and not treat them like, treat them badly, they treat instead white people like shit because I guess they're privileged. And then they go and they treat no matter how vicious somebody's acting who could be black in there, because again, they're mentally ill usually and also have drug addictions and things like this, they treat them exactly how you're supposed to treat somebody when they're when you're working as a medical, in the medical field. So, go fucking figure. But that's rampant all over the Portland metro area of Oregon, which, if you think about it, makes total sense because of the cliche people that live in this metro area. Now, that's just one example, but I've heard and seen so many other examples of that. Anyway, I just noticed, getting to the main point of this video, that it has 94,000 dislikes and 7,500 likes. Oh, and also the results here for this video and the reactions. Yes, you have Steven Crowder, you have whoever the fuck this guy is, who's white as well. But you also have a handful of black people I've noticed that have reacted to it too. And they, at least in their thumbnails, seem to show that they also are like, what the fuck is this shit? And so I would like to actually be able to see what they had to say too. Specifically them, because I've actually seen and heard a lot more often than not, black people actually talk about how even the whole privilege thing is bullshit and all this other stuff, and how they're really irritated by it and actually kind of offended by it. Yeah, we're gonna just jump right into this video. We're gonna see how terrifyingly cringe this is. Like, again, this is the first time ever watching it, but we're gonna see.
What exactly are white people superior at?
Oh, well, according to television, everything. A white man could fly. Even a white woman, she could be 4'1". She knew karate. She could take down 15 people.
What are white people superior at?
Man.
Oh, God.
What are white people superior at?
They just keep talking, mostly about their pets.
White people love their dogs. Like, that's all you see.
Cats, letting them get on your countertops while you're cooking. Yes.
I get that you love your pet, but like you need to take it everywhere, like everywhere. I guess, you know, hey, emotional support animals, I guess.
What exactly are white people superior at?
Fuck, man, like making cereal.
Casseroles.
What kind of casserole?
Tuna. It's always tuna. What do you mean? It's always tuna.
Using mayonnaise in a lot of their recipes.
Making bland food.
Unseasoned chicken.
How you gonna start whole spice wars and don't even use seasoning on your food? I mean, come on.
It's true.
Smelling funky.
Santa Claus.
Extreme water sports.
Corn mazes.
White people are great
Corn
at
mazes?
having
Wait, what?
fun. That's a function of white
I'm sorry. Corn mazes? What? That is random as hell and weirdly specific. Damn. Okay. I didn't know that apparently, but okay. Sure.
White people are great at having fun. That's a function of white supremacy because they just don't have as many stresses as we do.
White people are very superior at their privilege and utilizing it. We do not have the privilege to do whatever and however we want to.
What exactly are white people superior at?
Not getting arrested.
You know, I was driving down the street with down the highway with a friend of mine who was white, and he's like, I just want to pull over and pee, and I'm in the passenger seat, and I was like, please don't, because a black man thinks differently. If I pull over to the side of the road and pee, a cop is going to be right behind me to punish me.
What exactly are white people superior at?
Insecurity. Pretending.
Fear.
Being fearful of nothing. Being ignorant.
Blame.
Letting their egos control their every move.
Privilege.
Privilege. Killing victims.
Suddenly this just sounds like they're describing American people in general.
That they're incompetent at, or that should have already been done.
They're superior at being dicks.
What exactly are white people superior at?
Oppression.
Gaslighting.
Lack of empathy.
Intellectualizing oppression.
Did I say oppression?
They're just creatively thinking of new ways of like always staying one step ahead of other people. We get rid of slave catchers, then let's just expand the police force. Like, that stuff to me is wild.
What exactly are white people superior at?
Making us believe that we don't matter.
Believing that they're superior.
Feeling superior.
Thinking they're superior.
Thinking that they're superior.
Thinking that they are superior.
Self-delusion.
Controlling the narrative.
Believing their own press.
Marketing of white superiority.
Whether you are Republican, whether you're Democrat, whether you're conservative, like white people are really good at upholding white supremacy.
How about claiming that, you know, they are actually a whole separate race, when actually white DNA comes from the black female?
So what exactly are white people superior at?
Honey, lying, stealing, and cheating. Manipulation. Withholding information.
Lying?
Telling lies.
What kind of lies?
The lies of history.
They say that history is written by the victor, but the victor could be replaced by the colonizer.
What are white people superior at?
Conquering.
Imperialism.
Imperialism.
Colonizing. Colonialism.
Colonization.
Colonization. They might be better at that than us and everybody else, really.
They ballsy. They rose up all over the world. And they walk into everybody's house and says, oh, this is nice.
I want to call out something really funny here that I find hilarious. Really good at colonizing. They as if only white European nations ever colonized. Definitely not true. I mean, how the fuck do you think the Polynesians got all over the fucking Pacific Isles? Because they colonized them, technically. That's what colonialization is. Colonizing a certain place. In other words, they're going to wherever it is, even if there's other people there, and then they basically go and say, our land. But that said, the one that makes me laugh and kind of snort a little bit at that is the fact that they're forgetting that the Omanis, which are Arab people, obviously, the Omanis actually had a really big and like 200-year-long colonial empire all along Eastern Africa and even down through modern day Reunion, Mauritius, the Seychelles, all of that. You could look up an entire history on Zanzibar off of Tanzania. And so it's actually because the Omanis actually were an actual kingdom. They were actual, I want to say Khanate, but I guess it would be a sultanate for quite a while before, of course, Najid and all the others of the region decided to get big and powerful and then take them back over again, because that's what people have done throughout all of world history, and no matter where they're from, including Africa, they go beat the shit out of each other and try to say, our land, our people, boom! That's That's called being a fucking human being. That's throughout our entire history. Like, it's not just Europe. And technically, here's the fun fact. Like that woman said, right? We all came from supposedly a black African woman. Well, maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. Who the fuck knows? You can believe that. You can believe you came from, the Garden of Eden that now supposedly they've dug up and somewhere along the Tigris River, I think, in like Iraq or Syria, I can't remember. You know, you can believe you can't, therefore you all come from Arabs, or you can believe we all come from, say, Nepalese people, or basically in other words, Himalayan tribes, Himalayan people, or in North Asians, I think it was, or somewhere like that, or Syria, I can't remember, in the Middle East, in the middle of the fucking desert. But, you know, you can believe you can't, therefore you all come from Arabs, or you can believe we all come from, say, Nepalese people, or basically in other words, Himalayan tribes, Himalayan people, or in North Asians. Like, there's a fucking debate all the time in that shit, because there's a lot of people groups they find that actually came from even further back than they thought, and they're like, well, they were so well established all throughout the Himalayas, or they were all so well established throughout here, which we think we found the Garden of Eden, we say we did. Yeah, you could believe you come from some place in Africa. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. The funny part is even so, if that was true, that would mean that technically, if you're really going to be so desperate to cling to your past like that in your history, that's literally God knows how far back in time. I mean, you're outdoing the Greeks at that point with their obsession over history that's 3,000 to 5,000 years back. What you're technically inadvertently not even realizing is you're making an argument for the fact that technically, genetically, this all comes from African people. Like, it's technically, therefore, a genetic trait that was carried on, especially if you look throughout all of human history, it literally proves it's a human trait. And if it's a human trait that we all have, and you want to cling to this past and say, well, we all came from a black woman from Africa, you're technically insinuating that it's a black genetic trait. Because it's always been there throughout, since basically the dawn of man, quote unquote, you know? So, whoops, didn't think of that, did you? Just say it.
I'm gonna take your shit. And they have no qualms about it. They can take anything, baby.
What exactly are white people superior at?
They're real good at violence.
Violence.
Genocide. It's like stealing people's lives just because they feel like it.
If you are white and you know this is happening and you say nothing, then you're a killer too. You are adopted.
Okay, that is one of the most least logical arguments that people love to push. You can tell they're being emotional, not rational. It means you're a killer too. Oh, I see. Okay, apparently I'm a killer now. If I don't say something. A very valid reason why is sometimes there's people that won't jump in or say anything or intervene, even when they could and they feel like they should, is because of the fact it doesn't have anything to do with them and they're an outside party. So they don't know what really went on there or what's going on exactly at that moment in time. Like what was said, what was done, if anything is really that bad, whatever it is. Like, the thing is that some people, like myself actually, really sometimes want to help somebody, but because we're on the outside looking in and we don't have any fucking context or idea for what really happened, because the only people that know what's really going on, what really happened in that situation, is obviously the person or people in that situation, the very people themselves, the horse's mouths. Why would you want to interject into that? And plus, technically, now you're throwing your own energy and emotions into it. That makes everything actually worse. Like, you can look throughout your own past if you actually do act. A lot of times things get more explosive because of the fact that you're causing more issues and you don't even realize you're doing that. The reason why is because of the fact that you're now inputting your energy and your emotions and your assumptions and suppositions in on that. And then you're also putting your morals and everything in onto them and saying that you expect them to have to follow that because that's bad because I think it's bad or whatever. Like, there's just so much. It's actually way more complex than people realize. You know how much fucking genocide has happened throughout world history? Literally everywhere in the fucking world. All the different Chinese dynasties have actually committed genocide at different points in their histories. Turkey, very fucking recently, is the Ottomans. They went and genocided over 2 million Armenians that were living inside of Turkey that historically had always lived in Anatolia. And they just went and killed them because they had too much influence and power. Are they white now? They're actually technically Middle Eastern. They're a conglomeration of Greek, Turkic, and Arabian people groups. That's what they are. Actually, Slavic too. They're like literally a conglomeration of all of the above. They're some of the most recent people groups, but the point is that there's such a mix ethnically, culturally, and thus go figure, racially. So that's why a lot of Turks actually have a darker skin tone. Not all of them, but a lot of them do. Turks are somebody like that. The Greeks have committed lots of genocide. There's actually tons of genocides that have happened all across Africa throughout history because of the various tribal kings and leaders, and now modern day, genocides against other nationalities, and even, in fact, there's constant genocides and genocidal threats against that of the actual still remaining tribes. Especially the Tutsis and the other ones that start with the H. I can't fucking remember. Anyway, those two are famous for how frequently they either genocide each other, or now more modern history, they get genocided by other people and other nations, so nationality groups. It's not a fucking trait of white, it's a fucking trait of human, being human. Like, humans, just same with the violence. Humans are innately violent creatures. We're innately negative, violent creatures. We're very innately hateful. It's, for some reason, built into our fucking code. And so, our genetic codes, our DNA. So, that's why you can see throughout all of world history the supposed chaos that comes from anarchy and bloodshed and all that. It's always been there. It's just an innate trait of humanity. Just like the arrogance in going out and having privilege and going out and just deciding, I'm going to step on all these other people and create a hierarchy of power so that I'm at the top, so that I control everything, and they can serve me and do what I want. That's always been the way. Anything politics automatically corrupts because humans are immediately corrupting living beings. Like, we love to corrupt anything, especially if it means control, power, and structure and foundations. Like, we're going to do that. It's just an innate guarantee. That's why, of course, you have that whole thing. But again, that's all throughout human history, just in different contexts. We've always had those people that always put themselves up at the top. They always step on everybody and use them as staircases to get up to the top and do what they want, and then have them work for them to go and basically, say in the modern context, everybody thinks of make them more money. And they have to slave till they die as a cog in the system. Like, it's just kind of the way it works. That's just human nature. It's fucked up. It's really fucked up, but that's exactly it. We're parasites. What did you expect from a fucking parasite? It's going to go and take care of strictly itself, and it's going to do what it wants, that it thinks is the best and the right thing, and that it thinks it will benefit for the most, and there's nothing else you can do about that. Like, it's just going to happen, because it's a part of life in terms of humanity. Like, it's going to happen. It's real cute that you'd happen to gloss over all of that, because it's convenient to the arguments you like to make.
You are adopting a whole philosophy that says it's okay to do this, and part of that philosophy allows you to be ignorant, right? And they're like, oh, I didn't know.
What exactly are white people superior at?
Taking what's not there. Taking shit.
Taking our ideas.
Copycatting.
Gentrification.
Appropriating things that do not belong to them.
Taking over other people's cultures and making you believe that they invented it.
Maybe they're thinking of it as repurposing. It's like recycle and repurpose.
As my grandma would say, the white folk, they'll take it if you don't copyright it.
They are very good at destruction of land, destruction of people, destruction of humanness.
What exactly are white people superior at?
White people are not superior with anything.
Nothing.
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 There's nothing.
Nothing.
I don't believe that they're superior in any way, shape, or form.
Just because our skin color is different, you're no better than me, you're no smarter than me. No superiority there.
Do I personally believe that white people are superior at certain things? No, of course not. Like, the idea that you could be superior at various things just because of how much pigment you have in your skin is absurd. What makes sense to you or what you think you want to believe, you can believe. Like, that's literally how life works. That's how being a unique individual living being is. You get to make up your own fucking mind. There is no, like, racial superiority, obviously. That's always been known to be complete bullshit. Anybody with common sense automatically knows that's complete horseshit. Like, it just makes no logical sense. It doesn't click. Just because you have more or less pigment doesn't fucking make you superior at certain things. It just doesn't. It doesn't work that way. It never has. It never will. It's one of those weird quirks that some people get in their head and think, well, this makes sense. It really doesn't. But okay, you believe what you want. Okay. Basically, they just described Americans in general and also human beings in general. Arrogance, taking what's not theirs, oppression, I mean, that's throughout world history and human history too. But the arrogance and the being shallow and, you know, that's just classic American people in a nutshell. Like, it wasn't as cliche or bad as I expected it to be. I mean, it had obviously the classic cliches in it, but it just wasn't as, I guess, cliche as I thought it was. I thought that actually more of them would be a lot more emotional about it, so they'd be a lot more heavily emotive. They think they're the best ever! That's bullshit! But yeah, like, they literally described humanity. I guess that's basically what I have to say about it. They described human beings in a nutshell throughout all of our history. They didn't describe white people. One thing that they so consistently, and this isn't just white people or black people, of course, this is actually more majority white people, millennials, that are all about Black Lives Matter and Antifa and defund the police, and then all the cliche extreme lefts that they're so far left or right. And same with racial gatekeepers. They're almost all white girls, millennial women or Gen X women. It's like, oh my god. The thing that all of these people that believe that shit say all the time is 300 or 400 year history of slavery. Or in other words, they conveniently only go as far back as modern colonialism from Europe. The fact is, and the truth is, it wasn't invented or perfected by, or it wasn't even started, slavery. And in terms of specifically slavery of blacks, Africans, it wasn't even started by any European power at all. It's the tribal African kings, 500, 600 years prior, are the ones who invented modern slavery, or at least started what we know as modern slavery. The slavery that you saw with the colonial powers all came from these tribal kings in Africa. As in, modern slavery was actually started by black Africans. Yeah. Conveniently leave that out, of course, because that would actually contradict your fucking argument and your agenda, your narrative. That would make you look like an idiot. So you gotta leave that out conveniently. Be like, let's gloss this over. We don't talk about this thing. Yeah, of course you don't, because it would literally make you kick yourself in the fucking teeth. It would kick your own teeth in. It would make you look that fucking stupid. And that fucking, well, guess what? Unbelievable, as in dishonest, because you're intentionally, conveniently leaving out certain facts that you know would not help your argument. And what happened with that, how it got into the colonial powers, is the fact that they had, before they got to the Americas, they had started to, of course, try to colonize Africa. They got in there, and these African kings, tribal leaders, warlords, realized that there was a good market for this. For what they wanted, the colonial powers wanted to do, they could keep themselves in power and keep their kingdoms and their land without it being forcefully annexed and colonized if they worked out a deal with the colonial powers. And they knew that they would find their slaves incredibly useful. They would find them, the tribal kings, even more useful than even the slaves too, because guess what? They would fight alongside the colonial powers, and they would take over certain tribal kingdoms. And so they would get various luxuries, basically, and money, and a rare occasion, maybe a little bit of extra land that they'd help the colonial empires win and annex militaristically as gifts, as payment for, along with their maintained existence and power and their kingdoms without being getting colonized and annexed themselves, if they kept helping them militaristically while also maintaining the consistent trade of their slaves that they got from their conquered rival kingdoms, and transferred them and really sold them, traded them, bartered them over to these colonial powers. That's how you got that. It was not a concept by the European colonial powers. It was a concept and capitalism conceived by none other than these tribal warlords and kings of Africa. That's how you got modern slavery, because they saw a profitable opportunity to maintain their own empire and have a profit, and thus a protectorate, actually, a protector, if they worked alongside of them and instead marketed their slaves to these empires. Without these black tribal kings and warlords, you would literally not have modern slavery. At least it would have started probably a lot later, and it wouldn't be as widespread and massive as it was. And in fact, it would probably be more classical slavery, where basically whoever they managed to leave alive, wherever they then landed to try to annex militaristically and thus colonize, they could use them to then be slaves. So basically they would enslave them. So instead of anything else, they just enslave those people rather than trying to go and get these slaves from one continent to another. They would actually just do what they have always done throughout human history, all kingdoms and empires and lands. They enslave their own people, they enslave their peasants, they enslave their low-class people economically. They enslave other nations' people that they capture. They enslave other royal families. They enslave whatever else. Like, literally, they'll enslave anybody they can. Usually, they would enslave whoever else they conquered. Those lands, they would enslave those people. So, that's probably what would have happened if it wasn't for those tribal kings. And I'm not saying in a way of like, oh, it's a great thing that happened. No, of course not. But it happened. That's the point. That's likely what would have happened, logical conclusion, if those tribal kings hadn't already realized there was a good capitalistic opportunity for them in it. Felt like that was definitely worth mentioning, because that's something that they never fucking talk about or mention anymore, because it doesn't fit that agenda. Salvador Allende. I love how weirdly specific some of those were too. What? Like, also, tuna casserole, superior at making tuna casseroles. Oh, it's always tuna casseroles. I didn't know that, but thank you for telling me. By the way, you know probably where that came from, and in fact, I can just about guarantee what era it came from. Depression era. That sounds so much like a Depression era thing, and if you think about the commodities, I'm confident tuna was in that. I would not be remotely surprised. They probably had canned milk, condensed milk, something like that, which would also make sense to have the thick creaminess of it. Starch, readily available, thicken it up. You have your noodles, readily available as well. So guess what that means? That's your base. That's the thing that holds it together. And that also adds more starch. So it thickens it up further. It makes it all sticky. So it sticks together. And of course you got big 5-pound blocks of government commodity cheese. You just melt that in it or on top of it or both. And you got yourself a tuna casserole. Like, you think about it, it's really, even modern day, it's, well, other than cheese, at least around here, it's relatively cheap to produce that as well. And you think about anything casserole, literally casseroles are all Depression era. Like, that's when they became popular, and that's when a bunch of new casseroles were invented, because of the fact that casseroles are literally one of the cheapest, easiest, just like soups, one of the cheapest, easiest things you could ever make. You literally just throw shit together. Whatever you have left over, whatever you have on hand, you can throw it all together. You can throw it all together and make a viable meal that could potentially last you a while. And of course it's fairly dense, so it's going to hold you over as well for a while longer. It makes total sense. It's literally a poor man's thing. So ironically, tuna casserole? Go figure, you're talking about poor people's food. Weirdly enough. Whoops. I don't think it's that common. The only people that I know that I've ever gotten to know that actually think of a tuna casserole and think of casserole, they just always think, oh, let's make a tuna casserole. And they did it, maybe once every few months. Was actually my grandma, who, of course, go figure, is 90. So yeah, she's Depression era. I'm really digressing here. So I guess I'm trying to find things to mention or talk about. I just don't have anything else to give. Like, I don't know other than what I did, and it's very little. So, yeah, no like, no dislike on that video, of course. It doesn't deserve either, I feel like. I guess my advice to those people would be stop clinging aggressively to the past. It's the past for a reason. Why the fuck are you so desperately clinging to something that happened in the past? Especially if it's a bad thing. Why the fuck would you do that to yourself? Why would you desperately cling to the past and transpose it on the present if it was bad? There's a reason it's called the past, because it's over. It's history now. It's done. It concluded. That book finished a long time ago. Or that chapter closed a long time ago. You're a handful of chapters later, and yet you're still sitting here like, but this chapter, though, it's definitely talking about right now. No, it's not. You're stuck in the fucking past, and you're inhibiting the fuck out of yourself, along with inhibiting yourself from making progress, because you can't make progress if your head is stuck in the fucking past. If you're stuck in the past, you're never going to make progress. You're only going to regress, if not stay stagnant in the current state you are in now, because of the fact that you're so obsessive over this past. Stop doing yourself this fucking harassment and disservice of stressing yourself out and making yourself think that the past is the present and living in that past. Like, just let it go. Breathe. Calm the fuck down and realize you're the one being the idiot here. even if it's fucked up, even if there's still ripple effects, it's still the past for a reason. Just because there's still waves coming at you from it doesn't make it that period or that time, that same thing, the same waves. It's not the same waves. It's brand new waves. Every wave is a brand new wave. Treat it as it is, the very present moment. I don't have anything too critical to say about that video. I'm not very critical of those people or that. There's certain things that can really irritate me, but nothing in that did. I just don't find anything worthy of disliking or liking it because it's literally, I'm literally fucking neutral on it. Like, I don't have a fucking stance on if I liked it or disliked it. Like, I don't care. I'm literally just blank. I'm neutral. It gave me my overall review is I'm left blank. I don't fucking have a review to give you. I'm just gonna say what I said, to have my reactions, and then leave it at that. So, I have been Dan Keys with TheCriminalViolin, and I hope to see you in whatever the next video life stream may be. Don't live in the past. Kick the life's ass and make it your bitch, rather than it being your bitch. Or rather, you being its bitch all the time like it always is. Reverse it. Kick its teeth in, curb stomp it, make it your bitch. And enjoy yourself. Do what you like and enjoy. And yeah, don't stop living in the past. Stay in the present moment. Take it, you know, right here, right now to right here, right now. Like, that's it. And enjoy yourself. Do what you like. See dear passions and ignore all this negativity if you can. Everybody can, but I guess it's just, it takes a certain dedication and effort. So I'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.